some people don't enter relationships expecting forever. They enter them wondering how long it will take before everything starts falling apart. Not because they're cynical, not because they don't believe in love, because somewhere along the way, hope became more dangerous than disappointment. So they prepare for the ending before the beginning has even had a chance to exist. Quietly, without realizing it. For many bisexual people, this isn't simply about romance. It's about living with the exhausting feeling that every connection exists on borrowed time. You tell yourself you're just being realistic. But realism becomes another word for emotional survival. You answer texts. You laugh. You fall in love. Yet a small part of your mind is already rehearsing the goodbye. Not because your partner has done anything wrong. Because your nervous system remembers things your heart wishes it could forget. Maybe it started years ago. The crush that disappeared after finding out you liked more than one gender. The partner who questioned whether you could ever be loyal. The friend who joked that you were just confused. The family member who treated your identity like a temporary phase. None of those moments seemed life-changing on their own. But trauma rarely announces itself. Sometimes it arrives as hundreds of tiny moments teaching you the same lesson. Don't get too comfortable. Don't trust permanence. Don't believe people when they say they'll stay. Eventually, your brain stops asking whether someone will leave. It starts asking when. That changes the way you love. You become incredibly observant. You notice delayed replies, different emojis, shorter conversations, a different tone in their voice. Most people call it overthinking, but to you it feels like emotional surveillance. Your mind scans every interaction looking for proof that history is repeating itself, because predicting abandonment feels safer than being surprised by it. And here's the cruel contradiction. The more deeply you care, the more convinced you become that losing them is inevitable. Love stops feeling peaceful. It becomes something you have to constantly protect. Modern dating quietly makes this even worse. Dating apps promise endless possibilities. But endless possibilities also mean endless replacements. One swipe, one notification, one attractive profile. Suddenly nobody feels irreplaceable anymore. People don't always leave because something is wrong. Sometimes they leave because something newer appears. That reality settles into the nervous system, especially for someone who has already spent years wondering if they were too much, not enough, or somehow impossible to fully choose. Being desired is comforting. Being chosen repeatedly feels unbelievable. So every happy moment carries a hidden expiration date. You enjoy the vacation together, but part of you wonders, will this become one of those memories I cry about later? They tell you they love you. You smile. Another voice whispers, people have said that before. That voice isn't trying to ruin your happiness. Is trying to protect you from another emotional collapse. Because emotional pain leaves fingerprints. After enough disappointment, your brain stops chasing certainty. It starts chasing control. You begin preparing for endings nobody else can see. You save screenshots. You memorize conversations. You mentally practice surviving the breakup before there's even a reason to imagine one. It sounds irrational until you've lived it. Some bisexual people grow up feeling like they have to constantly explain themselves. To straight people, to gay people, to partners, to strangers. Eventually, you become exhausted from translating your own existence. You don't just fear rejection. You fear being misunderstood all over again. There's a difference. Rejection hurts. Misunderstanding slowly erases parts of you. Over time, you start simplifying yourself, editing yourself, shrinking yourself, not because you're dishonest, because constantly defending your identity becomes emotionally expensive. That survival strategy quietly follows you into relationships. You stop asking for reassurance because you don't want to seem needy. You stop expressing fear because you don't want to seem dramatic. You stop admitting how much someone matters because caring feels dangerous. Ironically, the person who loves the deepest often looks the calmest. Not because they're secure, because they've become experts at hiding emotional panic. They've learned that visible fear sometimes pushes people away. So they suffer silently, monitoring everything, saying almost nothing. People often assume trust disappears after betrayal. But something even stranger happens. Sometimes trust disappears after being repeatedly questioned. After hearing, "So which one do you actually prefer? Are you eventually going to pick a side? How do I know you won't miss dating someone else?" Questions like these don't simply challenge your identity. They quietly teach you that love comes with interrogation. That before someone embraces you, they may first put you on trial. Eventually you stop expecting acceptance. You start preparing your defense before anyone accuses you of anything. That becomes exhausting, emotionally, mentally, physically, because you're no longer experiencing relationships. You're managing perceived risk. Every disagreement feels larger. Every misunderstanding feels permanent. Every silence feels loaded. The relationship exists in the present. Your nervous system exists in every painful relationship that came before it. That's why reassurance sometimes doesn't last. Someone can tell you they aren't leaving. You believe them for an hour, maybe a day. Then anxiety quietly returns. Not because you think they're lying, because fear has a shorter memory than pain. Modern culture accidentally rewards this cycle. We're constantly told to protect ourselves. Never look desperate. Never care more. Always have options. Always stay emotionally independent. Some people call that confidence. Sometimes it's simply loneliness wearing expensive clothes. People have become emotionally accessible, but psychologically unavailable. They share everything online, yet hide the one fear that actually controls their relationships. The fear of becoming emotionally replaceable. For many bisexual people, that fear feels amplified. Not because bisexuality creates insecurity, but because repeated invalidation can train the brain to expect instability. When enough people question your capacity to love, you eventually begin questioning whether anyone can truly believe your love is enough. That's the hidden wound. It isn't just fear of abandonment. It's fear that your identity itself makes permanence impossible. So you begin leaving pieces of yourself outside every relationship. Just in case. Just enough distance to survive. Just enough emotional restraint to soften the impact. Except it never really softens it. Because partial love still creates complete heartbreak. Eventually something unexpected happens. You become tired. Not of loving. Of preparing to lose people you haven't lost. Of grieving imaginary endings while beautiful moments are still happening. You realize you've spent years attending emotional funerals that never took place. How many sunsets did anxiety steal? How many peaceful nights became investigations? How many genuine "I love yous" were quietly interrupted by memories that belong to someone else? Trauma doesn't always convince you that nobody loves you. Sometimes it convinces you that love has an expiration date. So every relationship becomes a countdown instead of a journey. And perhaps that's the deepest tragedy. Not that relationships end, but that fear can make them feel over long before they actually are. The hardest emotional survival mechanism isn't pushing people away. It's never fully arriving in the relationship because one part of you is permanently standing beside the exit. Waiting. Watching. Preparing. But awareness changes something. The moment you recognize that this expectation didn't appear overnight, you stop confusing it with your personality. You begin seeing it for what it really is. A survival strategy built by someone who spent too long believing love was always conditional. That strategy may have protected you once. It may have helped you survive rejection, misunderstanding, and years of feeling emotionally translated instead of emotionally understood. But survival and connection are not the same thing. One keeps you alive. The other asks you to risk being fully seen. And maybe that's the hidden truth behind all of this. Some bisexual people don't secretly expect every relationship to end because they're incapable of trusting love. They expect it because too many chapters of their life taught them that being understood could disappear without warning. So they prepare for loss before they allow themselves to experience peace. Quietly, almost invisibly, until one day they realize the relationship they've been mourning is the one they're still living.